What do you think will be some of the trends in RWAs like next year?
I think it's honestly having new use cases to trade your RWAs. We're creating these different protocols where we can actually run DeFi looping strategies with RWAs under the hood. A lot of our users are Web3, but we also want a lot of Web2 users to come on chain, especially since we're doing a big push right now with like more like FinTech companies in like emerging markets as well.
DeFi at Broad, how do you feel about it?
I think it's exciting. It definitely took off a few years ago, but now I think it's even more exciting for us because we're finding like a different use case for it with RWAs under the hood.
Would AI benefit RWAs in any way?
Basically training these models to help, balance different vaults, different portfolios, help with risk management, and really choose the different strategies you'd want to, deploy your RWA assets into. People are kind of getting away from even tokenizing physical assets, but more so tokenizing data sets and bringing them on chain to trade like synthetic type products. I think there's a project building on us where you could have speculated on an index. It was a Trump or Kamala index, and you could go long Trump or short Trump. And I think that's what's exciting to us.
We're in Bangkok with Global Blockchain Show, and today I'm with Teddy from Plume. Teddy, welcome.
Hey, nice to be here, and thanks for having me today.
It's great to have you on.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a crazy week, but I'm glad we found some time to, record a quick sesh on on Plume, I guess, in general. Yeah.
Let's set the scene. Tell me about Plume.
Yeah, of course. So I guess just really quick introduction on myself. I'm one of the co-founders and CBO at Plume. Before Plume, I used to work in traditional finance, spent some time at Coinbase on their investments team, worked at a DeFi protocol on the BD side, and then worked on the ecosystem team for BNB Chain. And while I was at BNB Chain, I was going after different RWA type projects and realized there was a trend in what they were lacking. It was a lot of infrastructure needs that they asked me about, a lot of stuff on the ecosystem side and distribution. And so coming out of that, there's 3 co-founders. I'm only one of them, but we each have our different takes on it, how we really started Plume. But at least from my side, that was the piece that I saw was missing, really having like a chain-wide ecosystem to support RWAs in general. So what we're building at Plume is a permissionless EVM blockchain network, just totally dedicated for real-world assets. I would say there's 3 things we're really focused on. 1 is tooling, 2 is distribution, 3 is composability. On the tooling side, we've built a bunch of different products for enhancing real-world assets in general. But I would say like our flagship product is called Plume Arc, which is basically our no-code tokenization engine to bring any type of asset off-chain onto the blockchain. So if you're an asset issuer, you don't understand anything about tokenization, but understand the benefits of it, you can come to Plume, use our product, and your assets will be tokenized compliantly onto our network. But then I think is like, the biggest question always arises where, people always ask us, how do we actually distribute RWAs to the hands of the right investors? So our team is, I would say pretty crypto native and also pretty TradFi. So we have a good balance of the two. And what we really focus on the distribution piece is one, on the go-to-market side, we really help get the branding, the messaging, and the story of each RWA protocol out there onto, crypto Twitter, onto crypto Rails. And on the other side, we have a capital markets team really sourcing demand for these products. I think the biggest issue with RWAs traditionally is that, people tokenize a bunch of assets and they just hope that someone will come buy them and someone will be interested in it. But that's just not how tokenization works in general. So we have a team totally dedicated on the distribution piece. And I think the third piece is pretty important as well. And it's about composability. I think that RWAs in general, they've been pretty lackluster in the sense that, it's usually like a tokenized T-bill or like, someone investing in private credit, but it's really just an asset that sits in your wallet. But how do you really create opportunities and new financial markets around these assets on chain to really unlock new trading opportunities, to unlock new liquidity opportunities? So what we've done is created almost a DeFi network with RWAs under the hood. We call it RWA-Fi, where we can create use cases such as borrow lending, trading, yield farming, even speculating. We have synthetics building on us where you can take, for example, like a 30x lev long on like Pokemon cards, on Forex, commodities, alternative type assets. So what we've done is created a network that appeals more to the on-chain audience, because today the on-chain audience is still very crypto native. It's not as TradFi as people think. And I think that's the one mistake that traditionally RWA, builders have kind of struggled with. It's always been more TradFi people, and it's nothing wrong. It's just kind of orientation of how you position things. but it's always been more TradFi-ish people building TradFi products on crypto rails. What we wanted to do was build something very similar, but approach it from a different perspective, from more of the crypto native side. But I think we started the project around a year ago. Now we're at the inflection point where we're working with more institutions, we're working with more enterprises. I was yesterday I was at the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance conference, just talking about RWAs in general and how having an RWA chain in more broadly, like how it actually flows into the Ethereum ecosystem. So that's the high level on us. I think we recently we did our seed round back in May or so. We raised Han Ventures led a round, Galaxy Digital, Superscript. So we had a lot of great investors like Reciprocal as well. We had a test net for 2 months. We had around 280 million transactions, around 18 million wallets. 4 million of them were unique. Now we have a little bit over 180 protocols. We're tokenizing a few $1 billion worth of assets. We've been pushing that news out in the press, on the block, in CoinDesk. And now, we're just here in Thailand looking for more developers in the ecosystem to continue building, our story mission with us.
Sounds really exciting. Where are you guys based off?
Yeah, so I'm based in New York. I would say our team is pretty distributed. We have folks in Asia and Europe and LATAM, some folks in California and San Francisco as well. But I think the majority of our team sits in New York. So we actually just opened an office in Flatiron. Super exciting stuff.
That's very exciting, yeah.
Yeah, it's been good. We thought it makes sense to open an office so that, the New York folks can work together. But it's been good to have our ecosystem projects also come in so we can work with them hand in hand, and more in-person time is, always better than like something over like Google Meets or Zoom.
What is it like to have two co-founders?
It's good. So there's 3 of us total. I think it's actually a pretty good balance. We're able to move way quicker than, having a 1 or 2 founders in general. My other co-founder is our CTO. He started his career at Robinhood Crypto and then went to DYDX. So he has a lot of experience on the infrastructure side, especially when like evaluating different products. And then my other co-founder is our CEO. Chris, his name is Chris. He is very experienced founder, second-time founder. He worked in B2B SaaS, was always caught the crypto bug very early, so very on the DeFi side as well. But I think having his like product experience and his operational excellency, and coupled with my other co-founder on the tech side and me more on like the go-to-market side, has been very, I think, very beneficial in helping us build this product and really go to market with the type of speed and execution we've been displaying over the last year.
Yeah, it makes total sense. How did you guys meet?
Yeah, so I went to Berkeley, where I guess a lot of crypto people come out of. And I've known Chris for a while, just through like our mutual friends. So we actually met a few years back. Chris has been working more closely with Eugene for a while, and I had known of Eugene, but we weren't like, I guess, super close back in the day. But once we reconnected like a few years ago, and then reconnected again to start Plume, we thought it was just the obvious fit for the 3 of us, because we each have our own lanes, and there's a lot of trust in between the 3 of us. So it's very seamless and very easy to kind of, just move forward with the product and just be like, hey, you're doing this, hey, you're doing that, and just kind of go about it.
That's great. Why Plume?
For me, I kind of touched upon it in the beginning, but I started my crypto career at Coinbase on their Corp Dev and Ventures team. And I think in 2021, RWAs were still pretty early, but I was doing research into different verticals. So I was first kind of exposed to RWAs then, but I think the real itch came when I was at BNB Chain on the ecosystem team, because I was focused on onboarding any types of projects from like GameFi, SocialFi, infrastructure. But in 2023, RWAs were a pretty hot topic for us at BNB Chain, and we were definitely looking to get more exposure there. And when I spoke with these types of RWA projects, and some of them are building on Plume now. Actually, all of them are building on Plume now. But when I talked to them initially, they always ask for help on the infrastructure side and on the distribution side. So on the infrastructure side, they always asked if BNB Chain could help them with their compliance architecture, whether they needed, an integration on like the on and off ramp side, they need help with KYC. On the more tokenization side, they always asked if, we had any licenses they could kind of leverage how could we facilitate like secondary trading of specific assets. And at BNB chain, it's a great chain, but it's more general in nature. It's not really focused on a single vertical. And even on like the ecosystem side, on the distribution piece, we really couldn't help every product because there were so many. And at the time, RWA products were more early stage. And I saw this as basically an opportunity to kind of help the RWA market in the sense that it was very early at the time, and there were a lot of needs that they would need from a chain perspective when you're really starting to grow. Because before BNB chain, I worked at a DeFi protocol, so I know what it's like when you're first starting your project and to not get the right support from the chain that you're building on. So, what we decided was, if we could approach this from a chain-wide positioning and perspective and really help give all the necessary tooling and support to these RWA projects, they could really flourish. And over the last 12 months, we've seen a lot of exciting, tailwinds. BlackRock, I think tokenizing BUIDL was a huge win for the industry. The Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs passing. Like, there's been a lot of catalysts for the vertical in general. And I think now where we are today is like we're seeing a lot of institutions trying to move on-chain, onto permissionless chains in particular. So it's very exciting for us because we have a permissionless chain, but we still have the opt-in modular compliance architecture for more permission products. So in that sense, we can host, products for retail and for institutions alike. And I think our messaging now is really starting to kind of disseminate into the industry. And it's, it's been a pretty exciting time. Yeah, I guess that's kind of why Plume.
In your perspective, what are some of the most interesting assets people should have a look?
Yeah, so I think, there was a particular time over the last 12 to maybe 18 months where off-chain yields were higher than on-chain yields. And I think that really, moved a lot of money into tokenized T-bills. Like instead of, parking money into, compound or Aave for like 2 or 3% USDC, or even moving money to different DeFi protocols to get, governance tokens that were super volatile. I don't think that was as popular as just, moving money to like a safe haven where you can just, gather like 5% in general and just have like safe, consistent yields. I think from our perspective now, though, the more interesting assets are assets that are pretty high yielding and don't have huge lockup times. So like what we're tokenizing, actually we're tokenizing everything from like collectibles up to tokenized treasuries, corporate debt, corporate bonds. But I think what's interesting is like the more alternative type assets that we're bringing on, like the solar farms, GPUs, Medicaid claims, mineral vaults. These assets are higher yielding and still pretty safe and risk-free, and the lockup terms are shorter. So I think, when people ask me like what assets are interesting, I feel like, the best answer is honestly like assets that are higher yielding and like shorter on the lockup terms because, everyone wants to make money in the crypto space. So, they don't want to lock up their money for like 6 to 12 months at a time. But what we're also seeing, which is super interesting, I think, as a trend on Plume, is that people are kind of getting away from even tokenizing physical assets, but more so tokenizing data sets and bringing them on chain to trade like synthetic type products. So that's kind of what I touched upon in the beginning where, someone can have like a perp dex type model and then just bring on different price feeds to trade, the prices of like collectibles, of like, Asia real estate, of soccer teams. You can even speculate. I think there's a project building on us where you can actually, you could have speculated on an index. It was a Trump or Kamala index, and you could go long Trump or short Trump. And I think that's what's exciting to us. Basically, what we're doing is expanding the definition of RWA, so it's no longer just like a very static product. We have basically created an ecosystem where yield is first class. So you can come on the Plume. Most of our assets, actually all of our assets are yield bearing in nature. But once you're there, you can take your money out of these assets, go into like the more crypto native protocols and play with these different perp dexes, these different spot markets. Like we have a few projects where you can trade like collectibles. There's like a card breaking protocol as well to gamble on it. So there's a lot of like speculative nature built into what we're building, and we really think that having a balance of the two is really how you create an ecosystem that people actually would want to explore in the RWA space.
What do you think will be some of the trends in this in RWAs like next year?
Yeah, I think it's I was actually in New York last week talking about this. I think it's honestly having new use cases to trade your RWAs. And, that's why composability is a big piece for us. We're creating these different protocols, these different bar lending protocols and perp dexes where we can actually run DeFi looping strategies with RWAs under the hood. So you can collateralize one asset, borrow against it, buy another yield bearing asset, and then lend against it, and you can continue down this DeFi rabbit hole while under the hood you're still holding pretty safe assets. There's just treasuries or more alternative type assets in nature, and I think that is the future for RWAs, and the institutions are starting to see this. A lot of them really in the past they've just operated in a more permission state, where they built their own permission blockchains mainly for payment rails or asset transfers, and they never really had exposure to the rest of the crypto ecosystem and the liquidity that you can grab from being on a permissionless chain as a part of the Ethereum ecosystem. So we really think that given what we've built, it's very exciting to see that they're actually asking us to help them with the distribution piece for either their stablecoin project or their tokenized money market fund. And all of them are really excited about the ability of being able to, do more DeFi native activities with these products.
You are in US, and regulation hasn't been so clear.
Right.
Let's say. Do you think things are going to change now? I mean, with Trump now winning the elections, do you feel significantly hopeful that the market is gonna, for you specifically, it's gonna be positive?
Definitely. I mean, I woke up this morning, Bitcoin was at 90K. I was like, wow, or close to 90K. But yeah, I think a lot of the U.S. market was really waiting for this election to see what would kind of play out from it. And now that we kind of see the results of it, I think people are very more optimistic on regulation changes and just having clear regulatory schemes and rules around how crypto should really develop in the US. I would still say though that a lot of the projects building on us, they are more so in Asia or Europe or in LATAM. If they're in the US and they need to tokenize an asset, a lot of them do choose Reg S, which is basically file with the SEC, but then sell your product outside of the US, or you geofence the US in general. So they do kind of stay away from the US, but I think that could be changing very soon. Over the next few quarters. But I do think it's definitely something that we've been monitoring pretty closely with our partners on the venture side and the institutional side. But I think it's it's looking pretty pretty optimistic now.
To get more volume.
Yeah, exactly.
How does it look like in Europe? Do you have many projects built up from Europe?
Yeah, we have some projects in Europe. It's been interesting for them. I think they are a little bit more open to tokenizing, different types of assets. For us, we're lucky in the sense that our technology is more modular. So if there's, an asset class in a new jurisdiction that we can't really cover with the licenses from our other partners, we can integrate with the KYC provider there or an off-ramp provider there and leverage their license to go to market. So for us, we don't really have any licenses, or that's not our focus right now, to kind of acquire these licenses. What we do is leverage the licenses of our partners, kind of like the Chime model. We have our own transfer agent license and our own transfer agent protocol that we've built in-house. But at least from what we've been seeing, projects in Europe and Asia, I guess specifically Europe, it's definitely been easier to build there than in the US. And they're looking to work with a lot of different partners globally. There just seems to be a lot of real estate projects actually out of Europe.
Real estate, oh, interesting.
Yeah, and some stablecoin projects as well. But like I mentioned earlier, it's all about framing, right? And how you kind of package these products to the on-chain audience. Because the on-chain audience today it's not that TradFi. So being able to package these things in a way that people understand, just like the way the stablecoin really found product market fit, is definitely how these different European projects and Asian projects are looking at it.
DeFi abroad, how do you feel about it?
DeFi abroad? Mm-hmm. Overseas?
No, at abroad. So
the whole. Oh, I see. Yeah, I think it's exciting. It definitely took off a few years ago, but now I think it's even more exciting for us because we're finding a different use case for it with RWAs under the hood. I think it's it was super exciting during DeFi summer, and tons of people were playing with protocols on chain, and then I feel it kind of died out a bit because it was kind of the same stuff over and over. But what we're doing at Plume is like very exciting, and I think our testnet metrics definitely spoke to it because we're, having these DeFi applications just, incorporate RWA, themes around what they're doing, and it's definitely it's never been seen before from a chain wide level. So I think it's pretty exciting. There's a lot of opportunities ahead of us.
Yeah, for sure. Do you look into other areas of crypto? Like, what kind of products within crypto are you like bullish on?
Yeah, I think obviously RWAs. we love
Course.
RWAs and the way it's just developed over the years. I think AI is pretty interesting as well. Obviously, we have some AI projects that we're working with. I think GameFi is also kind of interesting. Like we saw the other day, or I guess a few weeks ago, the Avalanche gaming project, I think it's called Off the Grid, had more users than like a Web2 game. So that's also, it's always great to see verticals in crypto that just bring more Web2 users on chain.
Yeah.
And I think, the verticals that can really make that happen are the ones that we're like kind of focusing on and like partnering with. So yeah, I mean, I think there's like a lot of exciting trends, but I would still say I think RWAs have like the biggest potential over the next 12 months, especially from all of our conversations we've been having with the more Web 2.5 folks.
I was moderated a panel on RWAs at
Oh, nice.
Thailand Blockchain Week. There was this moment where I asked like on AI, so I'm bringing this question to you: would AI benefit RWAs in any way?
Yeah, I think there's definitely ways for AI to benefit RWAs, to have like different AI agents and basically training these models to help balance different vaults, different portfolios, help with risk management, and really choose the different strategies you'd want to, I guess, deploy your RWA assets into. I think that is definitely a benefit of AI, and I think taking it one step further, like for us with the DeFi element, if you can just kind of have AI handle all of like the intricate, DeFi strategies, which we've been seeing with some of our projects and some of our partners. That could be, it could unlock a lot, especially since a lot of our users are Web3, but we also want a lot of Web2 users to come on chain, especially since we're doing a big push right now with like more like FinTech companies in like emerging markets as well, in neobanks. So, a lot of these users aren't super familiar with crypto in general. So having some sort of, front end and some sort of, I guess, component that you can leverage to execute on what you've intended to build or intended to do would be super helpful.
Is there anything exciting coming up for Plume?
Yeah. So for us, our mainnet's around the corner. It should be coming in a few. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but it's coming. It's around the corner for us, and I think it's super exciting because we've been testing this messaging with our community for a while. Basically, the RWA5 messaging and having like a crypto native approach towards RWAs. I mean, just last week we had a pre-deposit campaign with one of our partners, Stakestone, and it was a $5 million vault that we opened on Ethereum just to test the RWA5 narrative. And people deposited within like 70 seconds, and then within an hour it was 6x oversubscribed at $30 million. So I think there's like a lot of opportunities and a lot of excitement around what we're building. So mainnet is definitely our biggest, I guess, launch that's around the corner. But, looking ahead of that, it's like finalizing a lot of the RWA like technology that we've built in-house. I think the institutional push is definitely one of excitement for us, especially now that our brand is big enough, we can speak with these different enterprise folks and institutional folks and really help them on the distribution side. That was a vision that we had set out a year ago when we started the project. But, your first client can't always be a Facebook or Apple. So we've worked very hard to get up to this point, and it's very exciting to see that, the next few quarters is, filled with a lot of exciting opportunities.
It's really exciting.
Yeah.
For everyone watching, where can they find you?
You guys can find us on Twitter, on Discord as well. We're always pushing out announcements there. We also have a Telegram chat, but feel free to check out our website as well, as that's where you can really see the different ecosystem projects that we have that we're building. But yeah, I think Twitter is definitely the best place to stay up to date with us.
Great. Ted, thank you.
Thanks for having me today.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.